Welcome those joining. We're going to give the rest of the attendees a couple of minutes to connect, and we'll get started. If you can confirm you're seeing my screen and you're hearing my audio, that'd be perfect. Thank you. Let's wait one more minute and we'll get started. All right, let's do it. So let's begin. Thanks everyone for joining today. My name is Gabriel Sang. I'll be your host for this webinar, which is how to manage security in TechSHIP. Okay, we're going to take about a half an hour, 4 to 5 minutes, to review several topics related to user permission structure and depending on the TechSHIP package you have, how you can make the best out of your environments and being and making a safe use of the product and its permissions. Okay, so these are the topics that we're going to handle today. First, we're going to talk a little bit about user permission structure in a presentation. We're going to discuss what types of structures you have, depending on your TechSHIP, the TechSHIP plan that you have contracted. Then we're going to be talking a little bit about the roles that users can have under that structure and the possibilities that you can have into expanding or restricting the user permissions and access. That takes us to user special permissions. Not every user should be the same. Some people could have or might require special permissions to perform different actions. For example, importing duplicates at the packing line, reprinting already printed orders, so many things. We're going to be reviewing those later as well. But we're going to see how user special permissions are handled and how these can be expanded or restricted. We're also going to take a little bit of time to review selective client visibility. Okay, this feature allows you to prevent users from seeing what other users might be required to see. If you wanted, for example, to have a portal and some of your staff should be focused on some clients and others should be focused on another group of clients, this is perfectly doable with features like this. So you could say packing agent A, B, and C are assigned to client to X, Y, and Z, and the rest of the crew is assigned to the other clients, right? This applies to everything. This applies to settings as a client and billing accounts, and it also applies to orders. So someone searching for orders will only see those for the clients that they are assigned to. And then information review. For audit purposes, we're going to review where you can check the trace of what was done, how and when, by whom, when it comes to billing account settings and also order handling. So let's have a deeper dive into these topics as a theoretical presentation, and then we'll jump into a TechShip portal so I can show you how these look like. So details on the permission structure. This is what we have, okay? On the left, you'll see two sections. The main permission structure, which is having a regular user and a TechShip administrator. And on the right, you'll see permission subsets, okay, which are combinations of features that could be used depending on the type of user that's being set up. So regular users are typically handled by um, packing line operators or operative users, right? People importing orders, printing them, manifesting, and checking order history. Okay. This regular user does have a base of permissions as standard permissions, which could be restricted or expanded depending on the case. And then you have the TechShip administrator type of user, which acts as a regular user if it wanted to. It can perform any action that a regular user can do, but also has capabilities to, for example, tweak anything for a regular user, restrict or expand permissions, block different modules. Um, when you access the TechShip portal, for example, if you would have let's imagine one scenario. You have a packing line operator, right? And this person is going to be at the packing line at the scale dimensioner, with the scanner, with the boxes, right? But occasionally this person is also in charge of printing batches in an office, right? So this person is not going to use the TechShape desktop client integrated to the devices, is going to go to a separate place, or even at that station, but without using the desktop client through the web client. Now, within the web client, this person, if it wouldn't have restrictions on the permissions, would be able to see everything, would be able to see reports, clients, billing account structures and configurations. All this exposed information could be either uh, private or the person wouldn't qualify in terms of hierarchy to check, review, or configure that data. Or well, the idea would be just to block access to the maintenance module to someone that is only going to import, process, and manifest orders. Even vice versa. So you might have someone from let's say someone with a role more on the IT side or the configuration side, um, or more on a managerial side, which is not going to be running operations. So this person could have could have full access to reports and maintenance, but you're going to restrict access to import orders because that's not that person's role, right? If anyone needs to import order, this person might give the order, but will not actually process it under its user. There's going to be someone else liable um, to and for processing that shipment. Okay, so that's what the TechShip administrator can do. It can change, update, delete, remove permissions and visibility uh, to regular users, even to itself. So for the permission subsets, we could say that we can classify the subsets in these three categories. Additional action features, which are typically tied to the packing line and the desktop client. That is, for example, as I explained before, um, re-importing orders, right? If you have someone with trigger happy, that's something you don't want because that person is going to print a whole bunch of duplicates for labels if the order is already in and the order has been processed and printed. So maybe that's a permission that you don't want to give, but maybe for a supervisor, someone that does have the hierarchy and the responsibility to fix issues when it comes to that. Maybe, I don't know, the printer broke halfway through. Maybe the roll is not good. Maybe it's the it doesn't look quite well. The quality is not good. So the order is already imported and processed, but you need to reprint, right? So you might have someone with special permissions to be able to do that. We're going to review these permissions shortly. Then segmented visibility. Again, what I explained before, if you need to separate your clients into teams and have each team have a visibility over their clients only, this is something you can do with some TechShip packages. Okay, and then we could say that the another permission subset is the TechShip administrator with every permission, which is a full access. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about these user permissions. Okay, we have this cross table here, which just makes it really transparent into what you can do, who can do, and where. Okay, so a regular user, over here we have on the left the type of users. Okay, regular user, TechShip admin for TechShip standard, TechShip admin for TechShip plus, and TechShip admin for TechShip enterprise. And then as columns, we have platform access, create permission to create users, permission to assign additional permissions or restrict additional permissions, and then client visibility. Okay. So for a regular user, okay, uh, the only thing they can do out of the box is to access the platform, okay, and perform basic operations. For example, import, process, manifest if needed, okay? But it won't have permissions to create users, won't have permissions to change someone else's permissions, and won't have permissions to choose the visibility they need or want for the client structure. They're going to see everything from everyone, in this case, a regular user, okay? Now, a TechShip admin can access the platform, obviously, can create users, okay, under each portal. Users are created under a portal. So if you have a user which handles several portals at the same time, that's typically an admin user type. Someone, let's say a regional manager, that's going to take care of the West Coast warehouses, right? So you have a warehouse in California, another one in Utah, another one in Nevada, and another one in, let's say, I don't know, Washington State. So in that case, someone might require access to several portals at the same time. Um, and if it needs to create users under each one of these portals, these can be created under that realm only. So John Doe working at Seattle will not have access to the California portal. Okay. Then in TechShip standard, you cannot change even being an admin the user special permissions. Okay, every user will have the same permissions when it comes to actions and access. Okay, so any user accessing the TechShip portal will be able to see everything, every client, every feature, everything. All right. Now, TechShip Plus and TechShip Enterprise do allow you to change as many elements as you need when it comes to user permissions. Okay, so if you needed to have a supervisor or a manager or something like that, or if you're training personnel and you need to restrict the actions that that user can perform while being trained to the most basic ones, you could perfectly do so. Okay. And then when it comes to client visibility, this only applies to TechShip Plus, to TechShip Enterprise. Sorry. So if you want to split your clients into, let's say, portfolios or into subgroups, with TechShip Enterprise, you can actually do so, and you can tell the system, hey, user A is going to have or is going to only work with a user with client X, and user B is going to work with client Y. All right. So having said so, let's jump into a texture portal and see how this looks like. Okay, let's go. So over here, I have two portals that I'm working with. Okay, first of all, I have, let's go to this one and let's review the user permission structure. Okay, under maintenance, you're going to have a section called portal users. Okay, from this section, the users that you create will only have access to this portal. Okay. When added a new user, this is really straightforward. You need to create an email. Okay. Sorry, you need to enter the email that the user has. This is really important. Make sure that you type it right when you create it, because when you actually save this user, this user will receive an email message so they can handle their password and get ready to work. Okay. And you will see that in this section, you have different checkboxes for different things. There's a section for maintenance. Okay, so if in this case, I would be created Joe Doe, let's say John Doe at mywarehouse.com. Okay, and we're going to ignore this for a moment. Okay, we're going to be focusing here in the basic access elements. So if I uncheck maintenance, this would be or would look like a packing line operator. Okay, no access to anything related to maintenance. No, this person will not be a portal administrator, so it won't have permissions to change other people's permissions or to perform any other type of actions in that sense, other than what we just state down here. If that user has carrier administrator permissions, it will be able to see the maintenance carriers section. Okay, this is typically used for people that are setting up connections between your portals and the carriers. Okay, um, if you're setting up a new carrier, if you're adjusting information there, that's something that you might need. Okay. And then client administrator enables the maintenance clients view, okay, which is where you see your clients, the billing accounts under them, and any other restriction rule or anything that you might have set up for those clients, okay? So if I would have someone, let's say a supervisor, it would be reasonable to have this person have access to the client section here. Maybe not the carrier administrator section because that person might not be technical, right? Typically, for to be a carrier administrator, this is typically an IT role. Someone that has to retrieve API keys, set them up, handle usernames and passwords, and other configuration elements, which might be, which are more technical than actually operational. Okay, but this is how a default maintenance user or manager is created. Portal administrator, okay, gives the ultimate control over creating new users and everything else in the list, okay? Edit permissions if that's required, allow it restrict visibility over everything. Uh, this person will be able to set up carriers, clients, billing accounts under them, import orders, etc., etc. Now, there's, as you can see, there's not a drop-down list or anything to say, well, administrator, supervisor, um, um, packing line operator, something like that with presets. Why? Because we know that every warehouse is a whole different world from another. So uh, maybe within your warehouse, the structure and the hierarchy is one, while the warehouse across the street works in a whole different way. So we don't want to limit you when setting up these elements to a few presets. Rather, we just let you know what you can do, and we give you full freedom into shaping the way your users can and should handle and work with things. All right. Now, within this section, orders processing, you can allow or block users or the user from importing orders and allow or restrict users to access the manifest section. So maybe depending on how a team would be structured. If you have packing line operators and then you have a supervisor, maybe the packing line operators are the ones processing and importing orders. And maybe the supervisor can also do it, but just handle exceptions. Now, the supervisor is going to be handling manifests. So in that case, I can just keep both. But if there's a person specifically dedicated to manifesting and controlling that, BOLs, etc., I just might say, well, I don't want you to import any orders. That's not your role. So you can block it from here, as well as reports. Maybe you want someone that wants to or needs access to reports, but might not be importing orders. Okay, so it's really up to you on how you want to shape these permissions. Now, in the special rules section, which you have here is permissions or action permissions that could be related mostly to the packing line operation with the desktop client or some additional options that could be useful through the web client, specifically when you're trying to handle exceptions or quite unusual operations like, let's say, return labels. When we come to think about the amount of shipments you get out and the amount of returns you handle, it's typically under 5%. Okay, so that's something that's a permission that doesn't come out of the box to create returns manually. So this is what we have. When it comes to interacting with batches, already created batches, you have these three special permissions. Can reopen batches allows you to reopen closed batches. Okay, if at any point you processed orders, you manifested, everything looks all right, then you get a last minute cancellation or a last minute change of a shipment, uh, a person with the right permissions could reopen the batch, could make the changes, could reprocess the order, and reclose and manifest to make sure that everything adds up properly. Unlocking batches is another permission. This might this these options are have their pros and cons. Okay, anything that goes wrong here could go really wrong. Okay, for example, someone voiding a whole batch, 300 orders instead of just one because of not being careful at the time of voiding. That's how you can break a whole batch when you reopen it. Or when you unlock batches, since some carriers, depending on the carrier, billing is triggered when you process the order, not when you manifest. In that case, if the batch gets locked for whichever reason, let's say you have a batch of 100 orders, you start processing the orders, right? You got 75 processed, and 25 are stuck in the loop when processing, right? Maybe something happened with the carrier's API. Maybe it's an internet issue. So many things could happen, but those 25 are there in the limbo for a while, right? So if you want to block the request to process the orders from the carriers, you can unlock the batches and break that loop, so you can restart over again. Now, the issue here could be that the carrier could bill you twice, depending on the system they have and how they control duplicates. So in that case, unlocking batches is kind of dangerous, but it's something that maybe an IT or supervisor role or person could do or need. And then undelete batches basically brings batches from the dead. Okay, when you have deleted a batch, the batches, well, when you delete a batch, if it was processed, it gets voided automatically, and then it gets deleted. And if for whichever reason you need to undelete a batch, okay, that is, instead of doing a clean re-import of the order, you need to bring the original one back, or the original batch, then you can undelete the batch. Okay, this is typically done for testing purposes, but it could also be required in actual live operations. Then we have additional permissions for the desktop client. Okay, and so allow closed import allows you to import closed orders. Typically goes hand by hand with the allow duplicate import. The allow duplicate is a little bit wider in terms of if the order is closed or not. Okay, but if this is on, this person would be able to import duplicate orders, bring one order as many times as needed, as different records on TechShip side. Then allow desktop reprint allows you to reprint labels through the desktop client, regular orders. And you also have allow desktop reprint closed orders if you need to reprint a closed order. Say that everything was labeled and that label got damaged. So you need to reprint an order, a label that was imported, processed, and also manifested. Say that the truck driver cannot scan it. Something happened, right? So you need to reprint a closed order. That this person would be able to do it with this permission on. And then there are additional actions you can perform through the web client. Force you to close manifest allows you to close the manifest even if it fails on the carrier side. This will log the orders in techSHIP, push everything to your WMS if it's properly set up, and notify any other systems, vendor systems on the other side of the WMS if you have the WMS properly set up for that. And then you have allow trace, which is really useful for, well, as the word say, tracing. trying to or leaving a record of everything that's being handled in terms of order processing and more. And then you have copy order to clone orders. This is typically, again, for testing purposes, or if you need to resend an order outside of your WMS, you can just grab and duplicate or clone an original order. And then create returns allows you to manually create a return label for an existing shipment. Okay. All these are special permissions, and these can be just turned on and off depending on what the user needs. So, for example, here, if I have this user, right, I can just click over here and say, oh, this person has allowed desktop reprint, but it also needs to allow desktop reprint closed because they have issues with the FedEx driver yesterday with some labels, and they couldn't actually reprint those. They had to waste a lot of time going to the TechSHIP portal, finding the order, downloading the labels, printing those, etc., etc. It's not efficient. So in this case, I might just say, okay, just scan it again. Scan the barcode again for the pig ticket. You'll get your labels out. Everything's going to be cool. Okay. So these are uh, the the special permissions available here. Now, um, the visibility of elements here is what's going to be limited. Okay. So, for example, if I would be a user, let me log in as one. Let me log into this specific portal. So over here, I have access to maintenance, admin, orders, all the options down there, right? So let me show you one different login here. Okay, let's see how this looks like. Okay, so as you can see, I can see several things, right? Let's work a little bit on limiting this user's permissions. Okay, so let's access it as an admin. And let's say we don't want that user to check the maintenance section or the admin section. We want that user to focus on orders and manifesting. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to say, well, from now on, you won't have access to the client, the carrier, or anything else. You're just going to have access to import orders. I'm not even going to let you manifest. Okay. I'm just going to cut all these. Well, uh, uh, let's keep manifest and let's remove reports. Okay. And let's save this over here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to log off as an administrator, and I'm going to go in again with the same user. Oh, okay. No, I'm just hitting a different portal. Sorry, my bad. But this is how you go through it. Okay. In this case, just a second. Let me go back here as an admin. There we go. I have this bound. That's why. Let's go to portal users. Okay, there we go. Good. But the issue is that this one has this user the secondary user I'm logging in with is a global user. It's not a portal user. So I'm stepping on those restrictions. Okay. Now, anything from orders, maintenance, and reports can be locked and can be restricted. Okay, when it comes to user permissions, when it comes to visibility, what you can do is, and this is for TechShip Enterprise only, you could say, hey, I don't want you to, or I want you to do all this, enable or disable permissions here, but I don't want you to see every client here in the list. Let's go to clients in this section. So this is my client list for this portal, right? I got Baby for You, Franco's Chocolates, Gold Enterprises, Whole Meal, Love Bug, etc., etc. Oasis Clothings. So each one of these clients has a client code, okay? And having the client code, what I can do as for visibility permissions in this section is say, hey, you're not going to see everything, which is having this field empty. I'm only going to assign you to shopping spree company. So I'm going to paste or just enter the code here, the client code. and you can separate with commas as many clients as needed. So in this case, I'm going to be locking these to Fantastico here, and let's say give it a visibility over Shopping Spree Company, Franco's Chocolates, and let's go with Oasis Clothing. Okay, let's save. Let's see if it doesn't conflict with the other permissions. You always have to keep coherence when it comes to um, user permissions. If you ever have issues accessing um, your permission structure, okay, you can reach techSHIP support just to make sure that you don't have a conflict with the base setup. Okay. As you can see now, this user can only see Franco's Chocolates, Oasis Clothing, and Shopping Spree Company. Okay, and the billing accounts under them. If I go to batches, the only batches or orders I will see are those for these clients. Let's give it a moment to load. Might take a little longer because it's filtering, and this is a test portal. Let's give it a moment. Okay. In this case, I think we don't even have orders for these clients. Okay. But once you have set up this visibility, the only orders this user could manifest, or the only orders this user, there we go, these users could see are those for those clients. Franco's Chocolates in this case, Shopping Spree Company here. Okay, in this case, these are open orders. If I do closed or any other filter, you should be able to see everything related to that. I have one for Oasis clothing here as well. This one is a deleted one. Okay, now what we're gonna do is go back and reinstate visibility of these orders. Okay, I'm gonna go back as an admin. I'm gonna reinstate visibility to this regular user, and we're gonna go back and see how this person can now see everything. An advantage once you have set up these restrictions is that you can transparently see within your list who can see what. Okay, so in this case, you can see that for this one, you do have restrictions into the client codes. Let's remove this. Let's do save, log off, and log in as that one. And now we should be able to see the whole client structure as well as every client's order. So let's do batches and clients so we can see it. See, so now we're also seeing Gold Enterprises. And if I go to clients, I can see the whole list again. With this, you can sub assign all this information your to your staff. Okay, and create teams, groups, or um, handle liabilities in that sense into who can do what and for which client. Okay. Now, as for information review, uh, every user will leave a trace of what they do with orders. And if they are administrator users or supervisors, they will leave a trace at the billing accounts that they have. Okay. So there, let's open one of each. Okay, let's open a billing account here. Let's go with a client. And let's open, let's say, this billing account. Hopefully we'll have some historical data here. And then let's go and find an order here. So we can have a little bit of everything inside. Let's grab this order here. Okay, this one was processed, so that's good. There's activity there. Okay, so where do you see the information? Where can you keep trace of what has done what and where? Within these two sections, let me show you. Let's edit one order, this one processed. You're gonna see audit tabs. Okay, within the whole information that you typically handle, right? Carry options, packaging, restrictions, etc. You're gonna find an audit tab. Okay, and these audit tabs allow you to check just basic information as a presentation of this section, and then you can go a little bit deeper with audit trails. Okay. In this case, for example, for batches and orders, you have basic information: who created the order, when it was by whom it was modified, and who processed it, and when. Okay. And then you have the audit trail. Okay, let's click on it and see. So this audit trail does not only show you who did what, who did what and when in a generic, from a generic standpoint of someone modified the order at this time of day. But actually over here, you'll see what was done at that point in time and by whom. Okay. So in this case, for example, if you scroll down, this order has a lot of history. You can see what operations were handled, what values were, for example, imported when the order was brought in, 12 by 12 by 12, and the weight was 0.01, right? Sequence number one. Maybe if the order was rearranged, someone changed or someone weighed or dimensioned this, the dummy information coming from the WMS is going to be overrode with whichever dimensions or weight the scale and dimensioner or the scale and your predefined box has. Okay, so in this case you'll see what was done here. In this case, this is rate shopping. It's trying to get um, rates for different services. It's trying to process the order as international ground in this case, for example. Okay, it's fetch rates. Over here is going to show everything that was part of that process. Okay, the rates that were received from the carrier. Okay, let's do something here. Let's use JSON beautifier. Just a moment. Okay, there are several things there. Could be issues I just copied and pasted on the fly. Let's review this. Okay. So in this case, you can even take a peek of what was handled by the carrier for the request that this person did at the time of attempting to process the order. Okay, we'll have the rate shopping amount, carrier ID, billing account ID, which account was used, etc., etc. Okay, so this tracing goes basically on two or has two approaches to it. One is to see what the customer, what the user actually did. Okay, what it chose manually or what the system chose automatically, which were the actions or options available there. Okay, and if any changes were handled at whichever point. In this case, there are some issues. For example, here, failed to generate label, commodity country manufacturers required. So this person, based on this feedback from the audit log, shows me that the shipment failed to process and this user was missing some data, right? So if this person completes the country manufacturer, I will be able to see what information this person said and how. Okay, when this person in which country, in this case of origin, this person filled out for this to actually process. Okay, and as different elements are set and controlled, then you'll get to the last entry of the log, which is typically printed. So as you can see here, um, this is the last stage of processing the order. Okay, you have all the basic information, everything that could have been corrected there is good to go. And over here, the system is assigning the charge to the shipment. If we go back to it, we're going to see the charge is 55.17. So that's what the system or service has done. Okay. And maybe what the user has done. Okay. If we go right now in here and we void this order, let's do it. We're going to void. Let's give it a moment. This might be an old batch. Might take a while to cancel. Okay, there we go. And let's see packaging. All right. What we're gonna do here is change. We're gonna change it to another to a bigger box, a 30 by 30 by 30. Okay, it's gonna still weigh 20 pounds, but we just change the dimensions. Could be manually done, could be a device like a dimensioner, right? Could be that it chooses from the drop down from predefined boxes within the desktop client, or that I do have automatic predefined boxes set for this. Whichever the case, there should be a trace that this was done and you had a previous value for something and that you have a new value for that. That's something you always try to find, or a piece of interest when it comes to the logs. So over here, as you can see, for example, is new box, okay, um, 30 by 30 by 30, okay, and the weight. This is just the box, not the as a container, and not not the weight of the shipment, okay. But this has been used by techSHIP, which means service, to rate that order and request the label. Now, the actual change of that is under my signature here. Okay, it's under my user. Okay, and as you'll see, it will say new box, this weight, this length, and this width. Okay, over here you have the previous value. So the logs are ordered from newest to oldest, so you can keep good track of what was done when and by whom. Okay. If at any point you see error messages, or the customer saw, sorry, the user saw error messages um, in sequence, they fixed something, something else was an issue, they fixed that other thing, someone else was something else was an issue, so on and so forth. You get to see all the details in these logs. Okay, and again, the easiest way to find um, if a user was performing the action or the system was performing the action is by user here. When you see service, this is done by the system. API calls, requests, responses, actions being performed, and then if it's something manually tampered with, to put it somehow, it will have the signature of the user here with a username that you have defined within TechShip. Okay, in this case, an admin did this, and then I came over and did some other thing. Okay, in this case, this admin person processed the order, and what I did manually at this time and at this day was to cancel it. This is really useful when you have discrepancies with the carriers, for example. Someone made a mistake, they sent the wrong piece of data to the other side. The account was not properly configured. Then you get overcharges from the carrier, and you want to find out uh, what could have been the problem and when. Well, this is the right place to do it. In a similar fashion, when you go into going back to clients, okay, leaving the orders behind, when billing accounts are created, these are obviously not written in stone. Conditions might change. You might need to change things for an operational reason. You might need to change things for business reasons. Who knows, right? But the initial setup that you have over here is very, very likely uh, at any point in time to be modified, to use a different packing slip, to change the rate shopping conditions, to change the markups that you set up, to change anything related to the bit to the carrier interaction. Okay, um, so many things could be required to be changed in this section. So for billing accounts, there's also an audit here. Okay, so this audit section could be as long as the change is done. In this case, this is really, really simple. Okay, we only have 3 entries. You'll have the very first bottom entry, which is the creation of the billing account. And over here, anything that was originally set up will be transparently displayed. Sender company, name, phone, account to be used, every single accessorial, proof of age, signature required, residential address detection, billing information, everything will be here, okay? Transparently laid out that way. And when anyone makes a modification or an update, you will see action modified, and you will always see the old value and the new value. Okay. So if at any point someone says, hey, why is this account not working this way? Oh, well, maybe it's because someone changed something, right? For example, in this case, something simple. I just created this and let's see, a month, almost 2 months later, I just changed this option, skip rate shopping failures from false to true. Okay, and that's it. If I show you, let me show you another one with a little bit more history, because as you start operating with these billing accounts, and time goes on, you might be tweaking one thing back and forth, depending on special circumstances. This means that you can basically have a history of anything that happened in this account for a really long time back. So as you can see here, if there are many changes, these are going to be paged. 10 entries by page, all right? And as many pages as needed. So over here, this account was created in 2020, as you can see. It's a really old account. And from 2020 onwards, many changes were done. Okay, for example, here in this case, the 5th of November 2020, we enabled address validation. We moved it from no validation to check residential. Okay, currency codes, references. We used to have this value here, now we have this value there. Okay, and from here, you can not only keep track of what was done and when, but you can also track who did it. Okay, this is also useful when you're doing experimental changes in accounts. You could create a clone of the account, which is also a security element. You typically don't work when you're performing, let's say, when you're trying new features. Let's say that now UPS supports this 3 new features, right? It's quite risky to just jump into the pool without knowing if there's water with your production account. So if you make any mistakes trying this new feature, you can either produce as many wrong labels as the ones you print, or you could actually get the whole warehouse into a halt because for the feature you enabled, you had to set up a couple of fields, which you actually didn't, right? So you don't want that to happen. You could perfectly say, okay, let's create a clone of this. Okay, so I got this UPS here, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clone it. I'm going to target this portal, right? I'm going to target test. Okay. And I'm going to target this client, okay, Gold Enterprises. And I'm going to save it. It's going to be most likely here as a copy. Oh, here it is. Okay, copy of UPS. And with this one, I can start trying these new features. Once I have tried the new features, right, I can see an audit. What was the previous value? What was the new one? Maybe it's not related to features as such. Maybe you're just changing your markups, right? Or maybe you're just trying new references in the labels, and you don't want to interfere with your production account, which is being used at that specific time by the whole packing line staff processing thousands of orders a day. Maybe you don't want to do that. So you can clone it, you can change it, and then you can compare and say, oh, okay, do you remember which value we put in this field, or which was the original value of this field when we run scenario 3 and 4 of our tests? So it's like, yeah, sure, let's go to audit. So over there you have, okay, we run the test yesterday, so I'm going to check the date. In this case, this is clean because we just cloned it, right? But again, over here, what you can do is take a look at that, take a look at historical data and see what's convenient, what's not, what went right and what went wrong. And then once you have it figured out, you then change the settings in your production billing account. Okay. We're already out of time. It's been intense, a lot of information in just 1 hour. So, well, we thank you for attending this webinar. We hope that this has been or will be useful for your operations to keep things in better order in first place, having the right people uh, um, using the right permission sets, and also knowing that you can reshape your team in the sense of what they can do or they cannot with the permission structure, and also to now be aware of the good practices that are typically in place and used when handling users and their liability in terms of handling orders as well as setting up billing accounts and clients. Okay. This session has been recorded. We're going to upload it in our YouTube channel shortly, and it will be available if you need to share it with your team. You will be communicated by our marketing team when these are up. Okay, so thank you for attending this session, and you have a wonderful day. Bye bye.